Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2020 Honda HR-V, we're going to be showing you how to install the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch Receiver. But before we get to that, why don't you take a minute, check this out and make sure it's going to work for you. With the HR-V being a pretty compact vehicle, you don't have a ton of room for extra stuff on the inside. So it'd be nice to be able to use accessories back here and help kind of free up some space. So having a hitch is going to allow you to do just that, use a bike rack and things of that nature. Or maybe, if you're pulling a small trailer around, maybe you got some kayaks or something, you can use it for that and not have to deal with trying to put them on the roof and go through all that. So having this back here is really going to open up your opportunities on what you're going to be able to do with your HR-V. If I had to pick a hitch for an HR-V, this would be the one I'd recommend. Compared to some of the other ones for several different reasons, really. One of them being how it's going to look, the appearance of it. For the most part, it's going to be completely hidden, right? And looks like a factory option almost. But more importantly, almost, is it's going to be quite a bit more capable. This one's going to have a 2-inch by 2-inch opening. All right, so that's a really common size, and it really expands the choices as far as accessories go. You can use a lot more accessories and whatnot. And also, it has some higher capacities than the other hitches. So you're going to be, it's going to be able to handle more. And that's exactly why the owner of the HR-V chose this one today. He's using a kayaks bike rack. It's kind of a bigger bike rack, and it has the 2-inch shank. So you're going to be able to use it with this hitch. And with it being heavier, and I believe he said he's putting on an e-bike, if I'm not mistaken, so pretty heavy. Given the extra capacity that this one can handle, it just made sense. You won't be pushing the limits of the other hitches compared to this one. At the end of our 2-inch opening, we're going to have a reinforced collar for a little bit of extra support. I think it kind of looks good too. It kind of makes it look more complete. It is going to use the standard 5/8 pin and clip. Keep in mind though, pin and clip doesn't come included with the hitch. If you need one, you can grab it here at eTrailer, and a lot of times as well, accessories will come included with that, so just keep that in mind. The safety chain openings are a little on the small side, but not really a big deal. They should allow us to use just about any size hook that our trailer might have on it. Now let's just grab a couple of measurements. These will help us figure out what type of accessories to use. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 15 inches. So if you plan on pulling a small trailer around, you can probably use a ball mount that has a straight shank or one with a slight rise in it. And that kind of holds true for accessories too. If you got a straight shank, fine. If you can get one that bumps it up a little bit, probably not a bad idea either. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about, it's like about 3.5 inches, which is really good. But you can use that to figure out exactly if any of those folding accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Honda. Other than that, at the end of the day, if you're looking for a hitch for the HR-V, this is definitely the one I would recommend, hands down. I think it looks the best and is the most capable, so can't really ask for too much more. As far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad. I'd say probably the worst part of it for me was just trying to figure out where all the different types of hardware goes, because they give you quite a bit of it. So hopefully, this video will help you out and kind of clear some things up for you there. But speaking of that, why don't we go ahead, pull into the garage, and put it on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our HR-V, and first thing we need to do, we're going to have a couple of push pin fasteners here along this bottom edge that we need to pull out. This is what the fastener is going to look like. We're going to have one on each side of our vehicle, and with these you can take a flathead screwdriver, kind of pry down on the head of it, and work the whole base out. I'll do the same thing to get the other one removed. Now we need to let our exhaust come down a little bit, give us some extra space to work. So before we do that, what I've done is just took a strap and ran it from side to side here around the exhaust. That way we can kind of control how fast and how far we let it come down. To get the exhaust to come down, we'll have 2 rubber isolator hangers, so one on each side of the muffler. You can spray these down with some type of soapy water, some type of lubricant. Just take a big pry bar, or even a big screwdriver for that matter, whatever you got, and work the rubber portion off of the metal hanger. Get that one out of the way. You should be able to do this one as well. Pop that off. And I think we should be able to loosen up our strap and let the exhaust come down a little bit. So now, right here along our frame rail, we're gonna have two 10mm head bolts holding up this portion of the heat shield. Need to remove those. And this is going to be in the way because our hitch is going to sit right here in this area, and so we can either bend or trim out this portion of the heat shield. I think what we'll do is just bend it for now and see how it's all going to fit. If you have to come back and trim it, then not that big of a deal. So I'm just going to try to kind of bend this in half and give us that space that we need. Matter of fact, I'm really not liking that. So actually, I'm going to take these two off, lower this down, and just cut this. That way it'll look a little bit cleaner and you know, not give us any issues. So I'm just going to cut this portion off where we kind of had it bent, and I'm just going to go a little bit further in too, just to give us that space. And I'm going to use a pair of tin snips to get this material removed. When you're doing this, be careful too, because you don't want to get hung up on one of these edges because they're pretty sharp. So just pay attention to that and be careful where you're cutting here. With that out of the way, now I'm just going to reinstall it using the two remaining bolts there. Get this resecured, and after looking at it now, I think we made the right call on just trimming it. That will reduce the chances of it, you know, rubbing up against the frame and vibrating and everything else. Moving over here to the driver's side, we're going to have this wire that's attached to the bottom of the frame rail. Take a trim tool or a flathead screwdriver, whatever you got, pop that down, and then we'll take the zip tie that they give you and just zip tie it to this harness right here. That way it's out of the way from our hitch, but still will be properly secured. Now what we can do is trim out our fascia. So there's a diagram and instructions. They tell you where to cut. Pay attention to this because you want it to be centered with this, but it looks deceiving because it's kind of offset. This piece is offset on the bottom of her car. So it kind of just looks deceiving. So take your time, make sure you got this centered up and where it needs to be. So check behind there, make sure you don't have wires or anything, which were clear. I'm going to use a Dremel tool to cut this out just to speed things up, but you can use snips or a utility knife and get this trimmed out. This cut out now, they give you this piece of trim, and I like to put this on now as opposed to when the hitch is up, because when the hitch is up, good luck getting it on there. So this simply just kind of goes around and essentially just kind of pushes around our fascia there. So I get this how you want it. That looks pretty good. It's hard to get these perfect because of the nature of it, but I'll just trim off the extra there at the bottom. Now we can get our hardware installed into the frame, and we're over here on the driver's side, the side you want to start. And what you're going to do, start with this hole here. You're going to take your pull wire, put the coil end through. We're trying to get it to drop out of this larger hole here. So a lot of times you'll have to kind of reach up there and help give it some guidance. And then you're going to take this 2-inch bolt and this type of washer, put that on, and then this spacer block, put that on, and this will thread onto the fish wire. You can kind of feed the hardware up into the frame until it drops down. And then we want to carefully remove our pull wire. You don't want to mess up the threads. We're going to take that same hardware combo. This one will be a little different though. Thread the bolt onto it. This will be a reverse fish wire, so you just push it up into the frame that way. Drop it down. We'll pull off our fish wire, and then we can go over to the passenger side and get that done. Over here on the passenger side, we're going to use the same attachment points and the same technique to get the hardware in. But over here, one of the bolts are a little bit different. For this hole here, closest to the back bumper, you're going to use the 1.25" bolt, so the shorter one. And then obviously your lock, your washer, and your spacer block. And that's really the only difference on this side. In terms of the hardware that we're going to use for that hole, it'll be the same combo as the ones we did on the other side with the longer bolt. I just want to go over the hardware that we're going to use to actually secure the hitch once it's up in place. So for the 3 bolts that are longer, like this one here, once the hitch is up, you're going to put on 2 flat washers and then a split lock washer and then a nut. So that leaves us with the shorter bolt. This one will be a little different. Once the hitch is up, all you're going to do is put on 1 flat washer and 1 nut. But now that we know that info, let's grab our trailer hitch and get it up into place. Now with the next set of hands, you can get our hitch into position. So we're going to have to kind of get it going here and kind of peel back on our fascia to get the hitch up. Pretty tight. But once we have it in position, we're going to make sure that we don't push our bolts back up like I just did this one. If that does happen, what we can do is grab a screwdriver or magnet or something and hopefully be able to get it pulled back down, which we did. Get them to both drop through. And right now I'm just going to put 1 nut on. That way the hitch will hold itself up. We can get the other hardware combination going on the other bolt and then pull this nut off and put all the proper hardware on here. But that way we're not trying to do this holding it above our head, and at least the hitch will stay put. So I got all the proper hardware started on that one. Took the nut that we had on holding that up. We can get the proper setup on this one. And once you have all the hardware in place and hand tight, you can make sure to center the hitch. So you can kind of push the hitch side to side just a little bit, so make sure it's how you want it, which I have done. And now that we're all squared away in terms of that, you can grab a 17mm socket and snug everything down. Now what you need to make sure to do is come back with the torque wrench and tighten down all the hardware to the amount specified in our instructions. Now over here on the passenger side, we can set up our new exhaust hanger, which is this piece here. We're going to take this bolt and this big washer and put it through that hole in the existing hole there. Take this guy, run that over, and then take the flange nut get that started. All right, and then come back with a 19mm or a 3/4 inch socket will work too. I'll get this snug and then come back and torque it. So this is how you want it after you get it torqued, and then we're gonna put on a flat washer and raise our exhaust up. So the hanger's gonna slide on it, and it's gonna be tricky to see, but we'll show you after. To slide the hanger on it, you take this flat washer and a bolt and snug it down. So here's what it looks like once it's all snugged down. If you remember, I put a washer on first and then the exhaust hanger. I ended up taking that washer off and putting it on the back side there, just because this didn't tighten down all the way and I didn't want it rattling around. But yeah, so snug that down and then simply just rehang the other exhaust hanger the opposite way that you removed it. And from there, I simply just reinstalled those push pin fasteners the opposite way, just pushed them right into place. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2020 Honda HR-V.